Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Trails Radio Show. Thank you for joining us today. My guest is author Mr. Ryan Fleming. Thank you, and join us in a few minutes. Okay, my first question to you is, how did you become an author? How did you begin writing? How did all that become?
Probably back in 2005 at the ripe age of 9. I just finished reading the classic novel Heidi, and there got the idea this writing thing is something I want to do. So I toyed around with a few different storylines. None of them really went anywhere until 2011. I finished my first, what would eventually become my first published work. It was a Revolutionary War novel, Something Worth Fighting For, and then bounced it around from many different publishers, never heard anything back. 2012, published finally my first actual published work was a Civil War novel with a now defunct Sarah Book Publishing Company. A couple of years after that, they took on Something Worth Fighting For as well. So at that point, I had a Revolutionary War and a Civil War novel. And about 5 years ago, 2017, they went belly up. Not sure what the details were with that, but the company went completely defunct. So I said, well, I'm going to try a new direction, maybe a modern story. So I started working on a few neo-Western type storyline thrillers. This was right after Hell or High Water had come out, and Longmire was a thing. Justified had just died out, and then you had the No Country for Old Men from about 15 years ago now. So I was like, this idea is pretty good. So I played around with that until I came up with just the right storyline. Did that, and back in almost a year ago now, 2021, Solstice Publishing gave me a shot with this one. So that's where we are now.
Mm-hmm. And where can people find your books? Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. Bloody Prairie.
Okay. What is the most difficult part about being a writer? What is the most challenging or most difficult aspect of it?
Well, the most difficult is, and you hear this advice all the time as an author, but it's really easier said than done, and that is showing instead of telling. Just last year, I began to working on this novel. I began to actually grasp that, and I'm still not as good as I could be at it, but it's definitely something I've done better with this novel than in the past. So that would be number one, and number two would be, for me, overcoming writer's block when I'm not sure where a story needs to go or should go. A lot of people say just skip ahead. I cannot do that. I have to stall until I can overcome it, which sometimes leads to stalls for a week, and once you get out of a routine of it, it can be hard to get back in it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also a writer, but a different type of writing. I'm a screenplay writer, write plays and stuff. And the most challenging part for me, is I guess staying focused, keep a one-track mind on it, because for me, I write different all over the place, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, my next question is, what is your advice to people who want to be a writer? What is your words of wisdom for people who want to get into writing?
Definitely keep on writing. Don't be discouraged. And once you have your first rough draft written, and you think you're done, I wouldn't even say you've even started. Then you've basically, once you get it published, that's when you've just started. For your first work, getting it published is going to be probably harder than writing it. And my next biggest, probably just as important piece of advice is, again, that honestly, I hate hearing this because I've heard it so much, but show instead of telling with your writing, and that's way easier said than done. Like I say, I actually hate the expression, but it's so true, and it's really difficult, and it's really an art. But that's why the greatest writers, that's where they are what they are, because they show instead of telling, and they do it very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep writing, always keep writing,
Yes, absolutely.
And another big part, going back to my other question, what is the most difficult part is finding a publisher. A lot of people these days who are writing go the self-publishing route, and that's a challenge as well,
Yeah, which different strokes for different folks. That never appealed to me. I've never paid a cent for any of my works to be published. I prefer, when I've even had some publishers say, why not invest in yourself? And I'm like, once the book's in print, I'll, invest some, mostly time, but obviously some money into getting it, advertised and marketing and everything. But, I still stand by a good publisher. Will take the work. Will take the work and publish it without actually charging you anything. I'm sure there are success stories who are self-published, but I will personally never pay anyone to publish my book.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. Everyone is different. They go their own route. Are you planning on writing another book? Are you in the works of writing any other projects?
I am. I have a sequel planned for this current thriller that I'm pushing up. It's going to be called, most likely it's a working title, but probably Bloody Mountain, and I'm working on it, and it's just a direct number 2 type sequel to Bloody Prairie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll have to check out your book. I'm going to get a copy of it, and I'll read it. It sounds like an interesting book.
I appreciate that.
My next question is, what is your style of writing? I know you said it's like Civil War, revolutionary style. Is that what you mostly stick with?
It was at first. Now I've gravitated more toward... if you've ever read anything by Cormac McCarthy and Elmer Leonard, that would be examples of The Road, or as I mentioned, No Country for Old Men. This neo-Western type of genre where you have a lot of Old West themes, such as the anti-hero, hero, the white hat, black hat, that kind of thing, wide open spaces, those types of themes, but in a modern Western setting, such as obviously the American or Canadian West, or even Outback Australia, things like that, where men have to still carry their weight and everything, and the problems have changed, but there's still unique issues, whether that be cattle, oil, or in my novel's case, human trafficking, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to write as well. I write screenplays, and my main focus of writing is fiction, or sci-fi, or fantasy, or different things. I try to juggle all different kind of aspects, and it's fun when you get to thinking about different things you can write. I tell people for advice for writing, always carry a notepad and pencil with you. If something pops in your head, jot it down, and it can become a story.
Yes, and also, if I can backtrack for a second, advice to aspiring writers, I would recommend also read whatever genre you're trying to write. Read in that genre. If you want to learn more about, like nautical fiction, sea stories or whatever, read Moby Dick, read Master and Commander, read Pirate Latitudes by Michael Crichton, those types of novels, so you can learn and read in fiction and nonfiction as well. Say you want to read, write, I don't know, a pirate story, read actually some accounts, of actual pirates by Daniel Defoe. A lot of people don't know this. Besides Robinson Crusoe, he wrote a lot of nonfiction stories, or I should say stories, nonfiction about the pirates at the time. He was a little bit, I think he was a little bit ahead of Blackbeard's time, so he would have written a lot about those types of characters, the famous pirates and everything. So, read fiction and nonfiction in whatever genre you plan on writing in.
Yeah, absolutely. And write what you're comfortable with.
Yes. And people say, I'm a 26-year-old white guy from the Deep South. That's not all, of course, I can write about, but you have to be familiar enough with what you're writing. If you've just seen a couple movies and you want to write something medieval, that's not going to cut it. You're going to have to do hundreds of hours of research into, this is especially true for historical fiction. You're going to need to, you're going to need to do tons of research, watch documentaries, actual documentaries, which is 99% not the ones on History Channel. You're going to have to learn, read writings by professors and everything. You're going to have to learn about the era and the setting that your story is in.
Yeah, research. And you never stop learning. You've always have room to learn, and research is very important because you have to put in the effort, put in the work, and
some people will try to grab at that and say, well, it's historical fiction. Everything. It's like, yes, but people who know their history, which is most people reading historical fiction, they will point out those errors, and that can lead to some unpleasant reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's always about, about critics and stuff, and the fans either make or break you, to put it lightly.
Yep, they do. They do.
Yeah. Well, my last question to you is, do you think, writing is, and, I have my own opinions about this, but writing a book, do you think it's a good industry to be in for creative-wise or money-wise? I would say for creative-wise, but it's not, if you want it for money, it's not the case.
I'd agree with that. It's somewhere basically, probably right around the territory of thinking you're going to win the jackpot, playing the lottery. It's although probably I will say your time is better spent writing than gambling, but it's probably about that same scope of actually becoming, J.K. Rowling or someone like that. It's it may happen. You may be more talented than you may be more talented than anyone else and everything, but sometimes even that's not not good enough. There may be better writers than J.K. out there, but just all the stones don't fall into place. The right publisher has to see it, and the right amount of marketing, and there are plenty of good stories that could have cult followings, but they just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it all depends on. It just depends on the time, and depends where you're at.
It does. You could maybe, if she'd written that story earlier or later, it might not have gone anywhere. You don't know.
Yeah. But it's an interesting career to be in, if you enjoy doing it, and it's worth its while. If you're persistent and stick with it, you will succeed in the end.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Well, Ryan, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad we were finally able to set this up, and it's a pleasure.
Same here, Trey. Thank you very much. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was author Mr. Ryan Fleming. Thank you very much for listening. Join us. Let's see. We have another interview this week Friday the 11th is musician and songwriter Mr. Michael Steinman at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you very much for listening, and as always, God bless.